A critical artery for global commerce has been effectively severed. The Strait of Hormuz, a narrow passage of water separating Iran from the Arabian Peninsula, has become the focal point of an escalating international crisis. The situation began to unravel on February 28, 2026. On that day, the United States and Israel conducted joint military strikes on targets within Iran. This action prompted a swift and severe response from Tehran. Iran declared its intention to shut down the strait, a threat that was quickly put into action. The world watched as a regional conflict immediately spiraled into a global economic and security challenge, centered on this single, indispensable maritime choke point. The formal announcement of the closure came just days after the initial strikes. On March 2, 2026, Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps officially confirmed that the Strait of Hormuz was closed to maritime traffic. The IRGC issued direct warnings, prohibiting vessels from attempting to pass through the waterway. The effect was almost immediate and dramatic. In the days following the announcement, satellite imagery and shipping data showed a precipitous decline in tanker traffic. What was once one of the world's busiest shipping lanes fell eerily quiet, signaling the start of a new and dangerous phase in the conflict. Vessel passage through the strait dropped by approximately 70% in the first few days of the blockade. This figure soon plummeted even further, approaching a near-total cessation of traffic. Ships en route were forced to halt in the Arabian Sea, while those already inside found themselves trapped. The blockade, enforced by the threat of military force, transformed a channel of commerce into a line of confrontation with profound global trade implications. To understand the gravity of the current crisis, one must first appreciate the singular importance of the Strait of Hormuz. This small stretch of water is not just another shipping route, it is the world's most crucial oil choke point. Day after day, a massive volume of the planet's energy supply navigates this passage. Before the conflict, approximately 20% of the world's total daily oil consumption passed through the strait. This includes crude and petroleum products from major producers like Saudi Arabia, the United Arab Emirates, Kuwait, and Iraq. The strait is their primary maritime route to global markets, making its accessibility vital for economic stability. The strait's significance extends beyond crude oil. It is also a major transit route for liquefied natural gas. Qatar, one of the world's largest LNG exporters, relies almost exclusively on the Strait of Hormuz to ship its gas to consumers in Asia and Europe. The flow of these energy resources is the lifeblood of the modern global economy, and the strait acts as the main valve. When that valve is shut, the pressure is felt everywhere, from factory floors in China to gas pumps in Europe. The lack of viable alternative routes for such volumes amplifies the strait's strategic value. While some pipelines exist, they cannot replace the millions of barrels moved by sea each day. By controlling one side of a waterway only about 21 miles wide at its narrowest, Iran holds the power to disrupt a significant share of global energy trade. Beyond energy, global supply chains feel the strain. India, a hub for generic pharmaceuticals, relies on inputs shipped through the region. Nearly half of U.S. generic prescriptions originate in India, so delays risk essential medicine shortages. Iran's response to the U.S.-Israeli strikes was not a complete and indiscriminate blockade of all shipping. Instead, Tehran has pursued a more nuanced and calculated strategy. While declaring the strait closed, Iranian officials have indicated the policy is targeted. Iran says the waterway remains open to all nations except the United States and its close allies who supported the military action. This selective approach aims to create divisions internationally and preserve ties with key economic partners, turning the blockade into a political tool that rewards friendly or neutral nations and punishes adversaries. That policy is already in practice. Iran has explicitly allowed some vessels from India to transit the strait. New Delhi confirmed at least 2 Indian-flagged tankers carrying liquefied petroleum gas were granted safe passage. This protects a crucial economic relationship, signaling Iran's quarrel is with specific nations, not the whole world. China is another focal point. Beijing is reportedly in direct talks with Tehran to secure safe passage for Chinese vessels. China gets roughly 45% of its imported oil via Hormuz, so the stakes are enormous. Bilateral talks let Iran offer concessions to China, complicating any unified effort to reopen the waterway by force. Meanwhile, the United States has adjusted tactically. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent said the U.S. is allowing Iranian oil tankers to transit. "We want the world to be well supplied. The goal is to prevent a catastrophic spike in oil prices that would harm U.S. and global economies. By letting Iranian oil flow, Washington hopes to ease the supply crunch, creating a tense dynamic where both sides permit some energy to move." So, that is where things stand. In the face of Iran's blockade, the U.S. President Donald Trump has adopted a firm and demanding posture toward America's allies. On Saturday, in an interview with the Financial Times, he issued a direct and public call for action. President Trump explicitly called on major economies, including China, Japan, South Korea, France, and the United Kingdom, to deploy their own warships to the Strait of Hormuz. His message was clear. The responsibility for protecting commercial shipping should not fall on the United States alone, especially when others are more dependent on Gulf oil. The president's rhetoric carried an unambiguous warning to NATO allies, linking their participation directly to the alliance's future. It will be very bad for the future of NATO if members fail to step up. This elevates the crisis into a test of NATO's cohesion, reflecting Trump's transactional view of alliances, collective security tied to burden sharing, and arguing the most reliant countries should be on the front lines. "I'm demanding that these countries come in and protect their own territory because it is their own territory," he said. This perspective sidelines the traditional U.S. role as primary guarantor, positing regional security as the responsibility of key economic stakeholders, a significant policy shift. To underscore the seriousness, Trump concluded, "Whether we get support or not, we will remember." That implies Washington will note who helps and who doesn't, forcing allies to choose between joining a U.S.-led effort or risking U.S. displeasure. The reaction from European and other allied nations has been cautious and largely unsupportive of direct military involvement. While acknowledging the need to reopen the strait, British Prime Minister Keir Starmer said, "The UK is working with allies on a viable plan, but warned the nation will not be drawn into the wider war." Germany's response was more direct. Government spokesman Stefan Cornelius said, "As long as this war continues, there will be no involvement, not even an option to keep the Strait of Hormuz open by military means," noting the US and Israel did not consult them before the war. The comments revealed deep-seated frustration in Berlin and other European capitals. The economic consequences have been immediate and severe. The blockade sent shockwaves through energy markets, with oil surging above $100 per barrel. As of Monday, March 16th, Brent crude traded at $105.70, over 40% higher than pre-war levels. Higher energy costs ripple into transportation, manufacturing, and heating, threatening inflation and slower growth. The world is at a critical juncture. Diplomatic negotiations could de-escalate the crisis or produce a reopening formula. A multinational military operation remains possible, but risks a wider regional war. Choices by leaders in Tehran, Washington, and beyond will decide between a fragile peace or broader conflict, with the stability of the global economy hanging in the balance.